While Joe's going to the first slide, I'm Julia Burrows. I'm a managing partner with Valley Vision and have the privilege of being on the team for the Sustainable Communities Partnership. And I didn't want to go first because the whole first half of my presentation is really not very good news. And so I'm sandwiched in the middle between better VMT numbers and an outlook for the future that's very bright. And so the economy's sandwiched. There we go. Okay, that's the middle. Go way back. Sneak preview. Okay. So I was asked to do three things today. The first is to give you a snapshot of our economy, and I am going to use slides from our very good friend at the Center for Strategic Economic Research. Valley Vision has a great partnership with Ryan there. And to that end, I actually left his branding and logo on the slide so that you know that I didn't make these, Ryan did. The second is to talk about economic development and the ecosystem that happens when we have economic development. The CalEd conference is happening in Sacramento this week, and so you're going to get Economic Development 101 for free today instead of having to pay $500 to go to CalEd at the convention center. And then the third is to look at opportunities in the region, and this is the really cool part. This is where we identify the individual ecosystems that are going to happen for each transit priority area in the region. So I have some hopeful stuff at the end. So one of the reasons we have less vehicle miles traveled is also probably because more people are not traveling to work in the region. The peak employment in this region was in June 2007, and we have now reached back down to 2000 levels in the Sacramento region's total employment. So we're back down to just over 800,000 jobs in the region. And that number, this is a February 2011 number, that actually got worse in March. We just don't have the slide yet reflecting March. Another bad news slide. We've seen 41 months of negative job growth. So this is one of those that economists track. And in the Sacramento region, we're actually not recovering as fast as the rest of the coastal regions in the state of California. So that research is done, and we compare ourselves benchmarking both to other regions in California and other regions across the country. And in the last month that you see here, we had negative 1.5% job growth. So we're still losing positions in the Sacramento region. And we know that that has to do, and let me tell you about this one first. So 89,000 people have lost positions. To get back to full employment in the region, we need to add 60,000 jobs. So that's a number that I know Bill tracks very closely. At Valley Vision, Ryan is tracking very closely. And 60,000 jobs is a whole lot of job creation and economic development that needs to happen. So the reason we're still seeing job loss is because of the types of sectors that we have in the region. We're a government town, we know that. We have the state here, we have local governments, we have education that are shedding jobs. We have construction that has been hard hit in this region. And we also have the financial activities that support growth and development. And so because we are, and the gray shading shows based on averaging across the state, those three sectors, we are more than the state average, and we've seen job losses in those sectors, significant job losses since the recession in 2007. So what's the outlook? In Ryan's shop, they look at all of those folks that are doing forecasts for the future, and they do a compilation of the forecasters, and I apologize for the small type, but they look at UCLA, Wells Fargo, Woodbury, so private sector universities. And for us, it looks like in 2011, the forecast is that we'll see 1.1% job growth. However, there are some mitigating factors to that, one of which has already come up today, energy prices. We might see less job growth if energy prices stay high. We also have some other mitigating factors, and that is the state budget crisis. If it's an all-cuts budget, the only way you solve that number is personnel. I mean, they may take away cell phones. They may, need the governor's signature for state workers to travel out of state. But it's personnel costs that will affect that. We are also seeing some microcosms. For example, what happens to Natomas if ARCO or Power Balance Pavilion is not used as a sports complex? That may be a mitigating factor in our region. So the bright spot is the forecasters are saying we'll see 1.1% job growth, but we have some other things going on in the region which may affect that. So what are we doing with economic development? The first is, I love going global for this definition. The World Bank, I think, has the best definition of economic development because it includes not just the creation of wealth and jobs, but also the mention or the emphasis on quality of life. And I think that's what we're trying to do here, is enhance the quality of life in the region through these transit priority areas. So we want to improve our economic future and the quality of life for all, even the least among us, through these efforts. And the stakeholders in that are the public sector, the private sector, and the community, which you represent today. We're all going to work together to grow the region's economy. So as I said, the stakeholders, public sector, private sector, and community sector. And now the busy part. In a local ecosystem, we've just listed out all of the partners that are involved in growing an economy. And so you'll see the municipal governments, special authorities, we have Sacramento International Airport, we have the Port of Sacramento. On the public sector side, SACOG, workforce investment boards. Private sector, of course, large companies, we have small businesses, we have entrepreneurs that are taking risks and looking for financing. From banks and financial institutions, private utilities like PG&E that invest in economic development, and you see that very strong healthcare in our region. And then in the community, it's basically everyone else. Who else is involved in economic development? So when we start mapping that ecosystem in Sacramento, and we start putting names after the bullets, we have a very strong collaborative region. And that's what's so exciting about work like this, is that we already do so much work together in this region with SACOG at the lead of some of those initiatives. Groups like SARTA that are growing the clean technology infrastructure, groups like Sacramento Area Commerce and Trade that market Sacramento to the external world, everywhere from Germany to Japan on their trips. And then the nonprofit community, the faith-based organizations, neighborhood groups. So you'll see that list. And then these ecosystems have formed in various planning efforts in recent history, which we will also be documenting in a white paper for SACOG. For example, city, county, state, federal governments, they have broad-based initiatives that they work on together. When I was the economic development director for the city of Roseville, we had an economic development strategy, which was our roadmap for the city of Roseville to grow its economy. From 2005 to 2007, we had an initiative called Partnership for Prosperity, which brought together 34 very diverse stakeholders in the region. And we prepared a region-wide economic strategy that was led by 3 co-chairs who are very prominent community leaders in the region. And that's actually where the Green Capital Alliance was formed, the work that we head up at Valley Vision to grow the clean energy technology sector in the region, along with education and workforce job growth initiatives, infrastructure, and civic amenities. And so many of you in the room, I'm sure, were involved in Partnership for Prosperity. We also have individual city and county-based strategies, and there's a number of those that are happening right now. Some of you know me from Greenwise, which was a regional strategy and a roadmap for job growth in the future. Rancho Cordova has an economic strategy that you're working on. Citrus Heights Sunrise Marketplace is another example. And then Winters has an economic development strategy. And I know from my counterparts that Roseville's also updating their 5-year strategy. So we see these efforts to grow the economy through resources that are committed by city, county governments, and nonprofits in the region. And then there's also a new life to Partnership for Prosperity. There's an emerging agreement among business organizations that economic development strategy also needs to be updated to go forward. So, Sacramento Opportunity, SACOG has led many of these, including Blueprint, the Rural Urban Connection Strategy, and now the Sustainable Communities Partnership.